Seat of Power is the 11th episode of the second season of Frasier, directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and as is usually the case, this is another amazing episode. There are several key things that I really loved about this. There will be spoilers from this point on as I discuss things in a bit of detail. This is also kind of an interesting episode to watch just now because it involves Frasier and Niles doing a little bit of handiwork as they try to fix the toilet. And in a very recent episode of the Frasier reboot, Freddie wants to fix a problem in the building, in the home, and Frasier doesn't want him to do that. He wants him to call in an expert. And it's just interesting to see the way things shift ever so slightly because we do see Niles and Frasier in this episode getting really almost excited that they were able to, well, that they attempted to fix the toilet. They thought they'd fixed it. Things didn't go to plan. I'll get back to the main narrative in a moment, but a few other things before I get in with it. First of all, we have Macaulay Culkin, who phones into KCL, which is pretty awesome. And we have a lot of Moose in this. Moose, of course, being Eddie. And one of my favourite bits is when Frasier is sitting at the table with a plate of scones and Eddie is staring at him with his little tongue poking out, and it's just beautiful. And Daphne is also taking advantage of Eddie's need to go to the toilet because there's a cute guy who goes to the park with his dog. So we get quite a bit of Eddie running around and being adorable, and I love Eddie. So that made me very, very happy. The main narrative, however, does focus on the fact that there's a problem with the toilet, and I have to say the bathroom is gorgeous. I think this is the first time we've seen the bathroom. I could be wrong, but it's beautiful. It's huge. It's a gorgeous space. I really love the design of it. And obviously, Frasier and Niles try their best, but they don't necessarily do things very well. So they decide to restore order by hiring a plumber. And their reasoning for this, with the Dolly Parton CD and everything, I thought was very well written and very in keeping with Frasier and Niles. Unfortunately, the plumbers they hire, unbeknownst to them to begin with, of course, are bullies from Frasier and Niles' school days. We have Danny Kriezel, played by John C. McGinley, and Billy Kriezel, played by Mike Starr. And Niles practically starts hyperventilating when he realizes this is Danny. And a lot of the episode is about him facing the demons of his past and Frasier being very supportive. One of my favorite exchanges between them is when Frasier is telling Niles that Danny may have won a few battles in high school, but Niles won the war because Niles is living his best life, as it were. He's successful, he's well educated, he's got a lot of money, whereas Danny is, from Frasier and Niles' perspective, just a plumber. We actually learned that Danny's got quite a bit of money and he is doing very well for himself, which doesn't do well to help Niles realize that he's living his best life. But nevertheless, it's an opportunity for Niles to face these demons of the past and for him to confront Danny. And I think the way that played out was done really well and maybe a little bit unpredictable as well. One of my other favourite moments in the whole thing is when Danny leaves the bathroom to go outside and talk to Niles, and he says, well, he calls to his brother, Billy, and the penny drops for Frasier that that's Billy Kriezel, and it was just such a brilliant moment. Obviously, I don't want to hear stories of Niles being given a swirly and suffering in school, but I do like the message that high school bullies typically peak in high school, and that the best revenge and the best way to get your own back is to live life as best as you can. And that's exactly, of course, what we have with Niles and Frasier. I also love the solidarity between the brothers. I think that that's something that we see time and time again. Frasier and Niles are very, very similar, but they're also quite different in certain ways. But I think it's pretty clear that they both had very similar childhoods with similar levels of bullying, and to see them together supporting each other, particularly Frasier with Niles, is really lovely. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. We do get some Martin in this episode, and Martin's obviously fantastic. He's not the main focus, but what we get is pretty good. But for me, Eddie is absolutely the shining star of this episode. Just sitting at the table with his tongue poking out, waiting for a scone, is just so adorable. Absolutely adorable. Really thoroughly enjoyed this episode. A lot of really great takeaways, a really lovely message about bullies peaking in school, which is a common message, a common theme that pops up. High school bullies often peak when they're teenagers, because that's when life is about popularity. But in the real world, mostly it's about skill and dedication and hard work. Mostly. Either way, Seat of Power is a brilliant episode, very funny, very thought provoking, and one that I really thoroughly enjoyed.